Hey guys, we're going to do factoring of trinomials today. So let's look really closely at sign patterns. So this guy has a plus and a plus. So that means, and I'm not working with any numbers, just signs right now, a plus plus will always factor into a plus and a plus. Now notice this guy is a minus and a plus, and again, no numbers, just signs, and a minus plus is always going to factor into a minus and a minus. Notice that I have a plus in front of my constant and a plus in front of my constant. When I have that, it factors into two of the front sign, plus plus and a minus minus. Now when I go to these guys, notice that I have a minus sign in front of my constant this time, and it's going to factor into a plus minus. I have a minus in front of my constant, just like I did in the last one, and again, it's going to factor into a plus minus. So now let's see how that's going to help us. So I've got a trinomial, and I do always look for a GCF first. I don't have one. So I take the factors of 40, and by the word factor, things that multiply to make 40, and I always start with a 1. 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 4 and 10, 5 and 8. Now that's my complete list. And remember we said with our sign patterns that a plus plus would factor into a plus and a plus. Because my signs are the same, I'm going to take the sum of my factors. So that's going to be 41, 22, 14, and 13. Look at your middle term. It's a 14. Here's a 14, so I need to use my 4 and my 10. So I'll put an X here and an X here, and I'll put a 4 here and a 10 here. Now, if you wanted to put the 10 here and the 4 here, that doesn't matter at all. I could write it as x plus 10 times x plus 4, commutative property of multiplication, and I could check my answer by foiling. And when I foil, if I'm correct, this answer should get me back to my original. Let's try another one. So, different sign pattern this time. I got a minus and a minus. So, I'm going to take my 20, and I'm going to say, okay, 20. You have factors of 1 and 20, 2 and 10, and a 4 and a 5. But this time I have a minus minus sign pattern. So that means that when I factor it, I'm going to get a plus minus. These are different signs, so I'm just going to take the difference between my factors. So I'm going to do a 19, I'm going to do an 8, and I'm going to do a 1. Well, notice my middle term here is a 1, so okay, I have to use my 4 and my 5. And don't let this exponent of a 4 drive you crazy. I'm just going to split them in half. So I'm going to call this my y squared, and I'm going to call this my y squared. And I know from my sign patterns that somebody's got a plus and somebody's got a minus. Because my signs are different, it does matter where the 4 goes, and it does matter where the 5 goes. The sign of the middle term is a minus, so the bigger number, the 5, has to go with the minus, and the 4 has to go here. And if you wanted to write it as y squared minus 5 times y squared plus 4, that's fine. And then, of course, you would FOIL to check your answer.